the strongest warrior in all creation, once lay helpless as a newborn, and the horse that would make him legend had not yet been born. This is the story of how power finds those who do not seek it and destroys those who do. In the world before Rostam became Rostam, when the mountains were young enough to still remember their making, there lived in the house of Zal a child who would not stop growing. By his third winter he stood tall as a grown man. By his seventh no door frame could contain him. His father looked upon him with equal measures of pride and dread, for the boy's shadow fell long across the earth, and shadows that size attract the attention of things that dwell in darkness. The child's name was Rostam, though he had not yet earned it through deed. Names in those days were prophecies, and prophecies were chains. On the morning of his 12th year, when Rostam stood taller than any warrior in his father's service, Zal summoned him to the high terrace where the wind carried the scent of distant wars. The boy came, his footsteps heavy as falling stones. "You cannot become what you are meant to be on foot," Zal said. "Every hero must have a mount worthy of his fate. Choose from the royal herds. Choose wisely, for a warrior and his horse share one death between them." But Rostam was young, and youth believes itself exempt from death. He went to the plains where the royal horses grazed, 100 stallions each bred for battle, their coats gleaming like hammered bronze in the morning light. Keepers had groomed them for weeks in preparation. They stood proud as princes, these horses, their bloodlines stretching back to the stables of Jamshid himself. Rostam walked among them, and where his shadow fell, the horses shied away. He placed his hand upon their shoulders to test their strength, and one by one they buckled beneath his touch, their legs folding like reeds. Their breeding had made them beautiful but brittle. They were horses for heroes of the ordinary kind. "There are no horses here for me," Rostam said, turning to leave. The keeper, an old man whose eyes had witnessed 3 dynasties rise and crumble, spoke then. "There is one more, but you will not want him." Beyond the royal fields, in the wild places where the plains met the desert's edge, they found a herd of mares grazing among the thorn grass. Among them moved a young stallion, rose-red as dawn, breaking over bloodied sand, his chest broad as a lion's, his eyes bright with an intelligence that seemed almost human. Almost, but not quite. Something older moved behind that gaze. "He is unbroken," the keeper said. "3 times we brought him to the palace. 3 times he killed the men who tried to ride him. The last one he trampled so thoroughly we had to bury him in a basket." Rostam felt something shift in his chest, a recognition that had no words. "What is his price?" he asked. "He has no owner to demand one. He belongs to himself." This answer pleased Rostam more than he understood. He walked toward the stallion, and the horse did not flee. They stood regarding one another as the wind moved between them like a messenger carrying terms of treaty between kings. Rostam reached out and placed his hand upon the horse's shoulder. He pressed down with all the terrible strength that had broken the backs of royal stallions. The rose-red horse stood firm as a mountain. His muscles barely tensed beneath the weight. Something like a smile crossed the animal's face. "Raksh," Rostam said, naming him Lightning, and the horse lowered his great head in acceptance of this truth. But in the moment of that naming, in that first binding of hero to horse, neither understood what they had become. The Simurgh, that great bird who sees the patterns woven through time's tapestry, looked down from her mountain nest and knew. She had seen this binding before, in other ages, other worlds. It always ended the same way. The years turned like wheels beneath them. Rostam and Raksh became a single creature of war, unstoppable, inevitable as winter. They slew the white div who had blinded kings. They crossed the 7 stations where even angels feared to tread. Rostam's mace struck down demons and dragons, and Raksh's hooves shattered the skulls of enemy warriors like pottery. With each victory, Rostam's pride grew taller than his body, until it blocked out the sun. He began to believe himself beyond fate, above the laws that governed mortal men. When the Simurgh came to him in dreams to warn him that his greatest battle would come from his own blood, he laughed and turned away. This is how hubris plants its seed. In a distant land, a boy named Sohrab grew tall as the father he had never known. His mother told him stories of Rostam, and the boy made promises to shadows that one day he would find the great hero and stand beside him in battle. Fate, hearing these promises, smiled its terrible smile. They met on a desert plain with armies at their backs, neither knowing the other. Sohrab, seeking glory to prove himself worthy of his father's name. Rostam, defending his king's honor against a foreign champion who fought with disturbing familiarity. Both wore their helms closed. Both chose to fight as strangers. Raksh pawed the ground and screamed. Horses know things that men refuse to see. But Rostam, drunk on his own legend, drove the great horse forward. The battle lasted 2 days. They fought like mirrored reflections, each move met with perfect counter. On the third dawn, through trickery and experience, Rostam gained the advantage. His sword found the gap in the young warrior's armor and drove deep. As Sohrab fell, his helm came loose. Rostam looked down and saw his own face, 20 years younger, staring up at him. On the dying boy's arm, the bracelet Rostam had sent to Sohrab's mother before he rode away, before he chose glory over love, before he believed himself exempt from consequence. "Father," Sohrab whispered, blood on his lips, "I cross the world to find you." Rostam's howl split the sky. He called for the Simurgh, begged the divine bird to bring her healing feathers, but the Simurgh came only to speak truth. "I warned you," she said, her voice like wind through ancient stones. "The gods gave you strength to protect the world, not to place yourself above it. You chose pride over wisdom. You chose glory over the simple human act of knowing your own son's face. This is not fate's cruelty. This is the price of believing yourself beyond its reach." Sohrab died in his father's arms as the sun set over the desert plain. Rostam lived as heroes must, to carry the weight of what he had done. They say he never fought the same way after that day. They say Raksh grew gray around the muzzle, and sometimes in battle would refuse to charge, would stop and scream at empty air, as if seeing the ghost of all the futures they had destroyed. In the end, Rostam died in a pit of spears, betrayed and broken, no longer invincible. The divine power that had made him legend could not save him from the choices he had made. Raksh died the same hour, though he stood miles away because a warrior and his horse share one death between them. Some say this is a story about fate. Others say it proves we are free to choose and must live with those choices. The truth, like most truths, is both and neither. The gods give us power, but they cannot make us wise. That transformation we must accomplish ourselves, and usually we learn too late. The fire burns low now. The night grows cold at the edge of the known world, but the story remains, a warning carved in stars. Strength without wisdom is a sword pointed at your own heart, and the horse always knows the way home if only the rider would listen.